Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. For come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And welcome to the last episode before we do our vaunted football preview, so spoilers for what's coming next week. But this week, we do have a little bit of football news, but it's mostly on the basketball realm with a new women's basketball commit, and the non-conference schedule is releasing for both men and women's basketball. But to me, I think the most impressive piece of news from the previous week is normally people exaggerate when they say, oh, you know, X team got NFL, NBA, WNBA, or MLB talent. No, that's not an exaggeration. The women's basketball team got someone who was literally drafted into the WNBA.
Yeah, Nastia Claessens, just out of just really nowhere, signed with K-State last week. And that was really a surprise, for one, in that it was unexpected. But another in that, like Ace has already said, she was drafted, which I didn't realize that was actually allowed, that you could be drafted and then still play college ball. But I think what happened was she was drafted and then didn't sign, and that allows her to play college because she stayed in Europe.
Yep.
Because she was drafted, I think she might have been the last pick or close to it. She was in the third round, 30th pick. She was good enough for a team to use a draft pick on her. That's an incredible pickup for Jeff Mittie.
Yeah, and in the year that she got drafted, she was playing in the under-20 league in Europe. She was playing at a very high level, averaging nearly 18 points a game, 8 rebounds, 3.6 assists. So we'll round up, call it 4 because it benefits my narrative. And she was doing that at a professional level. And she's been playing at a high professional level in Europe ever since she got drafted in 2024. This last year, it took a little bit of a step down, but that's because she was playing in not an under 20 league. She was just in a professional league. And even then, she averaged about 7.5 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist with a high of 19 total points. So again, it's very similar to when the men's team added Elias Rapique, in my opinion. Not in terms of skill set, but in terms of let's go get a professional player from across the pond who has played big-time basketball in Europe to just give them the opportunity to come into the United States, turn some heads here. Now, the most pessimistic take that I've seen, which granted this take belongs to one person who I don't even remember the name of, so that sort of tells you where the take was, is I think this person was just low on FIBA shooters, mostly because they remembered the horrors of Gisela Sanchez rather than the good times of Gisela Sanchez. But I think that this is an infinitely better pickup than Gisela Sanchez was, and that's coming from someone who liked Gisela as she transferred out of Arizona. I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is by all accounts a fantastic pickup. There's been some tastemakers, the women's college basketball sphere, that have said this may be the best international signing for a college team of the entire cycle. So that's an impressive feat in of itself. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what she can do, because I was just kind of operating under the assumption that we were done roster building and we were probably going to be, I think we've said it a few times, a team that has some really high highs and some really low lows and plays itself into roughly a bubble conversation. I mean, Iowa State was a really good women's basketball team last year, and they were the last 4 in. So keep that in mind with how the Big 12 is perceived in women's basketball.
So I'll be interested to see how she kind of molds with the group that we've brought in, because it's a ton of new faces this year. It's really the first time that we've seen this many new players in like about 4 years. It's a big adjustment, not just for the team, but for the fans as well. We've been used to seeing the Glenn twins and Aoka Lee and Serena Sundell as kind of our reliable faces that we're used to seeing. But this year you're going to learn a lot of new names other than Taryn Sides. Hopefully Kennedy Taylor, but we're still kind of not really sure. So, but no, Nastia Claessens, just a genuinely great pickup. Like, particularly this late in the cycle, it's not something I expected us to be able to pull off. I fully thought that this late in the cycle, if we were adding anyone, it'd be like a depth option, just kind of filling the bench, someone to practice against, maybe somebody with like one or two really good skills. But Claessens is someone that could raise the ceiling of this team and hopefully raise the floor as well with all of her international experience.
Yeah. And I'm sort of in the same boat as you, except for in terms of who I was looking to add, it was maybe just like a JUCO big or something like that. Big is relative term, because it really it will always fascinate me, the difference between what qualifies as a big in men's versus women's basketball. And I know the reasons why there's that difference, but still I don't know, it's just interesting to me. But yeah, this is a very exciting pickup, and I think that outside of youth, the only spot on this team that I think has any flaws that you could point out to is just front court and post play. And even then, that might be solved if Kennedy Taylor is allowed to exist on the team.
Yeah, there's definitely question marks there, but the way this team is being built, it seems like Jeff Mittie kind of wants to get back to some of his roots, I guess, where we're not running that 4 out, 1 in, and going around a dominant center. But instead, we're just putting shooters absolutely everywhere, and we're going to try and beat teams with speed, which that can burn you at times. But if the shots are falling, that's a dangerous offense to have. So I think this is going to be a streaky team probably because of that. I mean, there's going to be some players on this team that can drain threes. Jordan Spicer and Taryn Sides are probably in line to be two of the best shooters in America this year. Because Taryn was great last year, and Jordan Spicer was considered the best shooter in her class. Claessens is a little taller and someone that can step out and shoot as well. And then there's going to be plenty of players that can drive from the wing and run kickouts as well. So I think that there's a clear vision on what Jeff Mittie wants. It's going to come down, I think, to building confidence behind the arc. And some of those players are already going to have it. Some of them are going to take some time. But regardless, I'm really excited for this upcoming season for women's basketball, just to get to know a bunch of new players.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who emerges. But we go from good news to a little bit of bad news when it comes to football. And that is George Fitzpatrick, who is slated to be the starting left tackle at the beginning of the season for K-State. Unfortunately, had a medical event. Full disclosure, we do not know what the medical event is. I do not plan on digging because in the most respectful way possible, I don't care. I don't care why someone was put in the hospital. I just kind of care that they are no longer in it. And that's the upside, is George Fitzpatrick is out of the hospital. He seems to be doing okay now. Apparently he's been to the facility a few times per a Kleiman interview earlier on the day that we're recording this. But he's not going to be available in Ireland. So first things first, you just wish the best for the person. You wish George Fitzpatrick a speedy recovery. But second, I think that means that John Pastore is finally going to get his opportunity where he really, really needs to step up at left tackle.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think a lot of listeners of the show, maybe, and definitely us in our hearts, like we're thinking to ourselves like Gus Hawkins, but he's still really young. He's a redshirt freshman. He's not really played, so this isn't really the time to just throw him out game one and have him start. But John Pastore, despite kind of being in and out of the lineup with health issues, he has played pretty consistently his way into the top group of guys off the bench when he's been healthy, and has generally been pretty good. He was also a pretty well-regarded prospect out of Colorado, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the table, because I mean, anytime that we can have a backup step in for a guy who was supposed to be one of the focal points of our offensive line and one of our best players and one of the best transfers we got, anytime that we can put a guy in there to sub for him and maybe not feel as good, but not uncomfortable. I mean, that's kind of a privilege from an offensive line perspective, because most teams aren't deep enough to get away with losing a left tackle for any amount of time. So hopefully John Pastore is up to the task. I mean, I'm sure it's been frustrating the last couple of years for him battling injuries, but again, this is also another hat tip to Brian LePack for going out and getting two experienced power forward transfers in Terrence Enos and JB Nelson in the portal in the spring. I think a lot of people may have said O-line's probably fine, but he said, no, we want to get really deep. And that's, prepping for emergencies like this. And you can't predict when they're going to happen, but it happened. And now we've got plenty of depth across the offensive lines, where we have a guy that's ready to step up and we have someone behind him, and we're not going to have to worry about kind of leaking at other positions to cover that one. So that's a big shout out, I guess, to Brian LePack for his proactiveness and preparing for natural disasters, I suppose. But I don't know. Hope, again, like, we don't know anything. Sometimes we bluff and we know stuff. We actually don't know.
No, we don't know anything.
Like, we know nothing about this at all. And like Ace, I don't really want to know either. But based on some of the just wording and phrasing, it sounds like they think maybe he can come back at some point this year. But again, that's just not a subject that I know much about. So hopefully John Pastore will have plenty of time to get ready to be left tackle one and protect Avery's blind side. But also it helps having a quarterback like Avery there. So it takes, honestly, a bit of pressure off of John Pastore. He knows Avery, he can escape, and he is really experienced. So John Pastore slips up a little bit, as long as he doesn't make massive errors, just step in front of him a little bit and slow him down. Avery can compensate a little bit for any mistakes that John Pastore commits. So John Pastore, as far as getting thrust into a starting position goes, he's in a pretty good spot, I think.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting whenever we do our preview episode next week for how we think the offensive line depth chart is going to shake out. Because, I mean, we had a pretty good idea up until JB Nelson and Terrence Enos both joined the team. And now I would almost say that one of them is almost guaranteed a starting spot, but that kicks someone out. That probably kicks out, if I had to place a bet, Poitier?
I don't think they're going to put Poitier on the bench. I think that he's in year 7. Mm-hmm. That dude is almost as old as me, and we're pretty old, relatively speaking, to the guys on the football team. So it's I bet that he's still going to start. I'm kind of raising my eyebrows with Andrew Langang right now because I think JB Nelson's probably an interior guy. I think he'll get the right guard spot Lane Gang, though, something in his favor is that he's very flexible, probably the most versatile lineman on the team. They can move him out to right tackle, but he's going to be battling with Gus Hawkins, I think, for that spot, and probably Terrence Enos as well. So, like, really, I think the only spots that I think I feel pretty comfortable with a Sharpie would be Sam Hecht at center, and then a little less confident, but like still like 90% confident is like Taylor Poitier at left guard. I really don't think they're going to push Taylor to the bench after he decided to come back, just because of how experienced he is. And I think that the staff almost feels like they owe him. I mean, like we go back to when he got hurt in 2021. Like when he went down, Kleiman said that he might have been the best lineman on the team. That was a team that had Cooper Beebe starting on it. And Cooper Beebe might be the best offensive lineman in K-State history.
Yeah.
So I think the staff, I think they feel like they owe Taylor Poitier one. Like, and not that they're starting him like any bad. I don't think that's the case at all. But like, I think if it came down to it and it was neck and neck, I think they'd give him the nod just because they're comfortable with him.
Yeah. Plus the familiarity matters in that case. So I don't know. I think you and I we'll probably end up with the same depth chart, but we'll argue about it for 20 minutes anyway.
I think that's the best way to do it, but I don't know. I'm willing to have a different opinion if for no other reason, just to have something different to say. So we're not just an echo chamber the whole time, because, you know, one of the benefits of being friends is that we agree with each other there a lot, but one of the downsides of that is that sometimes with the podcast, just listening to two people say, yeah, I agree with your point, I think it's good, is not the most interesting listen all the time. So I try to intentionally disagree, and I think you do the same sometimes. But like, I don't know, there's surely going to be a bit of distinction with the depth chart. I mean, that's going to be what, like, depending on how deep we go, like, could be as many as like 66 players. So,
God.
And that doesn't even encounter fours. I guess if we're doing a 2 deep, it'll be 44. But I don't know if I'll do a 3 deep or not. I'm going to have a really light month, so I might just sit down and do a 3 deep. Yeah, we'll see.
Someone just took the bar exam.
Yep. I will not be doing that 3 deep this week, but that might be a later project. This week I will be doing nothing.
Fair enough. The next piece of news is the release of the K-State men's and women's basketball non-conference schedules. We'll go over the men's first, and we have time to go through kind of game by game here. Opening the season, the regular season, I'm sure there will be an exhibition game at the start, always is. Opening the season in Columbia, Missouri, going up against Mizzou, a tournament team last year, who, funnily enough, has one of the coaching candidates that someone, Scott Wildcat, was especially vocal about wanting in the cycle that K-State ended up hiring Jerome Tang in. So that's a very interesting story. Some people will know, like, oh, Ace, you're a Mizzou fan. Like, what do you know about Mizzou basketball? Absolutely nothing. Anyway, I know Caleb Groh was on the team last year. Yeah,
it's kind of an interesting exhibition schedule. Like, I'm surprised, because we typically don't face Power Fours or even Division I schools in our exhibition games. But that is an exhibition game in Columbia, and I think they're going to play another one here next year. And it's early as well. It's like October 24th. Like, that's pretty early. But
I didn't know it was an exhibition. I thought that was just the start of our season.
No, that's an exhibition game. So, but Dennis Gates has had a really, like, we've said Jerome Tang has had a roller coaster tenure. Dennis Gates it's been even more severe, because year one, I think he was decent, but year two was just an utter disaster.
Didn't win a single SEC game.
Like, that was a brutal year. And then last year, they were very good. So that's been a wild stretch for Dennis Gates and Mizzou. But that'll be a nice early test for K-State and Jerome Tang. Newman at home.
What is a Newman?
Like Terrence's boy. Like, but it'll be an exhibition game. We'll see a few guys will end up redshirting and never see again in that game, surely. But
Yeah. The next two are both home games against, lower tier schools, UNC Greensboro and Bellarmine. Fine.
Start out with a couple bye games here. I'm not too worked up about those. I think some people were getting a little bit worried with how the schedule was filling because most of the leaks that were coming out were games against more quality opponents. But I think it's good to start, particularly when a lot of the team is an unknown. I think it's good to start with a couple bye games at home. Because I think back to Tang's second year, starting at a neutral game against USC. That seemed like a lot of fun going into it, but didn't end up going very well. We also started Taj Manning in that game.
God.
That was just a weird game all in all. It was on TNT as well, which doesn't normally do college basketball. But yeah, it's starting out, UNC Greensboro and Bellarmine. I think we played Bellarmine pretty recently as well in non-conference. I can't remember when, though. But both not super noteworthy bye games.
Yeah. And the next two games are we finally, after seemingly so long ago, we finally get the return game with Cal. In Jerome Tang's first season, that one. And we get two games against names that you've heard of in California and Tulsa. Both had pretty similar records. Cal went 14-19 last year. Tulsa ended up going 13-20. So not the best teams, but, names that are able to be recognized. And then you get the Hall of Fame Classic, which is, I think, has probably the first real test for K-State in the first game against Mississippi State in the Sprint Center. I refuse to call it by its other name.
Yeah, there's some interesting games in there. Also, I went and checked in Greensboro. Their Ken Palm last year was in the 130s, which isn't great, but pretty solid, honestly, for a team of their caliber. Cal was around there as well. They weren't very good. Bellarmine was in the 300s. Tulsa in the 260s, which I'm not the first person to talk about this. I think it might have been Scott Wildcat that talked about it, but K-State's 2-7 all time against Tulsa, which is just absolutely absurd. I remember we had a home neutral series with them in the latter portion of Bruce Weber era, and we lost at Tulsa. We lost in the neutral, and we barely beat them in Bramlage. I think it was a Cartier-Jara step back three to take the lead late in that one. Because I think I was at that game. But no, it's weird that we're not very successful against Tulsa. But they were kind of a historic program for a long time. But Mississippi State, they were 33rd in KenPom last year. That's a good basketball team. Granted, the SEC, everybody kind of gets a bump in that conference just because the SEC, they were making up 40% of the top 10 in the KenPom rankings. So they helped everybody's rankings a bit. I kind of like the Big 12, but no, that'll be a good early challenge. It's also going to be on Peacock, apparently.
Just such a weird place to watch basketball.
Yeah, what are we, the Big 10? Ridiculous.
But the next game for K-State will either be up against Nebraska or New Mexico. I want Nebraska again because I just want revenge. That straight up. God, that game sucked, dude. The Japanese guy, I think he's playing in the G League right now, or the Summer League.
Yeah, Tominaga. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was a shooter. But Nebraska and New Mexico, interesting. They Ken Palm wise, not a lot of difference between those two teams. New Mexico is 41, Nebraska 46. Nebraska's got a good head coach. Fred Hoiberg was so successful at Iowa State. Nebraska as a program, though, was just historically such a sorry program in men's basketball that he just has not been able to overcome like the Pharaoh's curse or whatever they have going on there. The New Mexico, like either of those teams could potentially be a challenge for K-State. So it'll be something interesting to keep an eye on. But again, some more quality games.
Yeah, the return the swab curse. Kidding. That's not a terribly deep cut, but that's still a deep cut.
It's an odd one for sure.
But the next one was one of the ones that leaked to the general public a while ago, and that's going to Bloomington to play Indiana, which, Indiana, traditional powerhouse, only went, I think it was 9-13 last year, ended up ganking West Virginia's coach because the Mountaineers are not allowed to have anything nice. I guess it's punishment for burning couches. But that will be at the very least, it'll be a very, very marquee sort of matchup. You get two Power 4 programs, Power 5 and college basketball, counting the Big East. Power 6, whatever. But
yeah, it's I'm glad that we're playing Indiana, honestly. I don't know if we're getting a return game because all right, well, I'm not glad we're playing Indiana anymore.
I'm sorry to burst your bubble like that, buddy.
Like, I don't understand why we as a Power 4 school are just not, at the bare minimum, not getting a return game to Kansas City with that. But I digress. They were kind of in a rough way last year. Also kind of sandwiched in that same Ken Palm area as New Mexico and Nebraska. They were 45. But yeah, they have a new coach and DeVries. And I don't know. I mean, K-State historically, pre like 1990s, they had a kind of a tradition of playing Indiana quite a bit there for a while. Because those were two teams that were really kind of upper level college basketball programs. Granted, K-State has fallen by the wayside, I think, more than Indiana has. We don't quite have the same reputation that they do still. But Indiana's definitely been a little worse for wear as of late. So I don't know. Regardless, going to Assembly Hall, that's a cool venue. I doubt I'll be able to make it, but it's a venue I'd like to see a game in. I know that a lot of the old historic venues are like really cool on TV, and you go and you're like, oh, right,
wow,
it's old. Yeah. So there's a reason this place is old. It's because it's not been updated in a while. But I don't know. We gotta beat them. If we're kind of sticking our necks out and like not getting a return game, like that's our one shot. So gotta get them this time.
Following that is a game up against Bowling Green, who was 4-18 last year, and we also took their best player, Nate Johnson. So
Marcus Johnson.
Akron. Nate Johnson was Akron. God, that's going to be such a pain to get all the.
It probably won't be that much of a pain because Nate Johnson is going to be an all Big 12 player, and Marcus Johnson is going to encourage everybody from the sidelines.
I'm going to leave it there. Seton Hall's the next game, who is far removed. No, wait, that was St. Paul. Or was it Seton? I don't know. It went 7-25 last year. Bad.
Yeah, that was a weird year for Seton Hall because they've actually been pretty good historically. But last year things just completely fell apart. Like, I mean, they did quite well. And they made the NCAA tournament as recently as 2022. They've been kind of like in the middle class of the Big East. I mean, like, that's a tough conference to get out of. I mean, they went 25-12 in the 2023-24 season. So they've kind of been an up and down program, but like their last year was a bit of an apparition based on how they've done recently. But yeah, I think this might actually be a home and home series, which I think is fine as long as they aren't as bad as they were last year going forward. Because if they are, then it's going to look really silly next year when K-State, who hopefully is not bad, is visiting a bad team. But hopefully they're entertaining, if nothing else.
Yeah. The next game is up against the worst team in the country last year, Mississippi Valley State, the Delta Devils, who have a very funny Twitter man, and that is pretty much all they have. Then you have a tournament team in Crichton playing them in Omaha. That'll be another one to sort of circle the calendars. And then a mid-tier South Dakota team, and then a bad ULM team.
Yeah, South Dakota, they were 240 in RPI last year. Summit League, not a great basketball league. Creighton, I mean, like, they're like as of late, they've been a really good team. They have a really good coach as well. Yeah, you said it better than I could have. Mississippi Valley State, that, like Ken Palm says, they were out of 364 teams, they were 364th, and they were like one of very few teams that we like pretty convincingly beat last year, which I suppose is an issue in of itself. And then ULM, they were right down there with Mississippi Valley State. They were 344. So after starting out a little light, we really hit a stretch of watchable basketball once we get to Mississippi State, Indiana stretch, maybe Seton Hall. But then we ended out, other than the Creighton game, with a list of kind of lower tier opponents. So we're kind of sandwiching and escalating in the middle, and then coming back down to hopefully rest our legs a bit going into Big 12 play.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the best way to schedule a non-con, especially when you're going into the hellscape that is Big 12 play. Although their Big 12 schedule is pretty favorable, which we've talked about before. But the women's schedule, as of right now, there's only one sort of quote-unquote marquee game on the women's non-con schedule. Everyone else is either okay or had a down year last year. If you showed me this schedule this time last year, I would have said A&M on November 16th would have been one of the marquee games. They went 10-19 last year, but the marquee game will be in St. Joe up against Ole Miss on December 7th. Everyone else is just kind of there, other than Lamar, who I think was a tournament team last year. They were not. I lied to you, but they were 22-8. So I think they were a bubble team. But yeah, there's no flashy non-cons. But honestly, with how this particular roster is constructed, I am more than fine with that.
Yeah. I think one of the more interesting things to note is that exhibition game on the road against Tarleton State. That one kind of jumps out at you because it's really unusual for a power conference team to go on the road against a low major opponent for an exhibition game. This is a Tarleton State team. I mean, they weren't great last year, but they're a little higher than you'd normally see for like a road game that doesn't even count, the 173. You kind of think that they'd be a little lower. I mean, we shouldn't be concerned, but that's still like I'm wondering what the thought process is behind that, other than maybe taking a very young team and trying to get them used to a road experience early. I imagine that's probably what it is. Omaha, I mean, they weren't very good last year. They went 14-17, 224. Bart Torvik, because Ken Palm hates women and doesn't do women's basketball. So, unfortunately, I can't utilize their stats. But SMU, they were 104, and Bart Torvik, 10-20. I think they might have gotten a new coach. If not, they should have. But Lamar, I mean, that's 128 there for them. So another kind of lower end opponent. And you get South Dakota, and similarly not as good, 244 for them. A&M, yeah. Last year, kind of was looking forward to that game. But no, they were very, very bad last season. In fact, all the Texas A&M schools were pretty bad last year because there's regular A&M, A&M Corpus Christi, and A&M Commerce. And they were all bad last season in women's basketball. But A&M, they went 10-19. Not a good basketball team.
Yeah, damn it, I'm getting excited for basketball season again. I'm making a horrible, horrible mistake.
Yeah. I guess going down the rest of this non-conference line, Troy, another kind of like solid mid-major team. They didn't make the tournament, but they were 24-14. They were 135. Bart Torvik. So I mean, like a conscious opponent. Like this wasn't like kind of some of the teams that we had last year where like they were so bad that Aokali just didn't even play. Like we had that game. Green Bay, interestingly on the road. So that was a home and home. But granted, they were a good team last year. And they've made the NCAA tournament, I think 2 years in a row now, or probably more than that, because I think they pretty routinely win their conference. But after that, Thanksgiving weekend, and they're going down to Cancun for the Cancun Challenge.
We don't know who they're playing, but yes, they are indeed going there.
Yeah. Let me look. I should have looked at this earlier. But who's even in the field?
I genuinely don't remember. I'm not sure if it's been announced yet. It almost would have to be, at least from certain individual schools.
There are two tournaments. There's the Yucatan tournament and the Mayan tournament. On our side, we're in the Mayan tournament. It's K-State, Columbia. I'm assuming the private school, not the nation, North Carolina, and South Dakota State. And so North Carolina, that's a team that I think we played 2 years ago, and they made the field. South Dakota State, I don't remember if we played them last year, but they were good, and they went 30-4 and made the field and won the Summit League pretty convincingly.
Yeah. So that'll be the sort of primetime marquee non-con matchups, especially the one with North Carolina. South Dakota State still could be anything just with how mid-majors fluctuate. But I think that taking the inverse strategy that the men's team sort of had, where, the men's team had some of the built-in marquee Power 5 matchups. I think for a young team like this one, this is kind of like the optimal strategy, as opposed to with the men's team, it's basically all transfers who have played big-time basketball before, or at least have played against big-time opponents before. So it's the difference between, like, I don't want to say going in with floaties, because I feel like that isn't true, but it's the difference between sort of diving headfirst into the 15-foot pool and taking time to acclimate. And I think that that's a very, very important thing for a team like the women's team that's going to have so many young pieces.
Yeah. I mean, they're really ending their non-conference like red hot in terms of competition, because after that Cancun challenge, in a week's time, you're getting Ole Miss and St. Joe, Missouri in the Bill Snyder Classic, then San Diego State, and then Creighton. Ole Miss, they're a very good basketball team, which I don't know if people realize that, but they were 14th in KenPom last year. They were a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. That is a very good basketball team that we're going to be playing at a neutral site. So that's keep posted on that one, because last year we came out pretty slow against Middle Tennessee State, who was a quality team. We ended up winning pretty convincingly, but we started very slowly in that game. So that's a game that K-State honestly very well may lose, but we're getting really good competition in for that game. So I'm excited for that. Then San Diego State,
25-10.
Yeah, they made the field as well last year. So that's another tournament team to keep an eye on. I mean, granted, they were 107 in Bart Torvik, but I mean, you have to be doing something right to make the NCAA tournament. And then the return game with Creighton. We played them last year and beat them by 20, but we're not going to be the same team that we were. They made the field out of the Big East as a 9 seed. They were 35th in Bart Torvik, so they ended up being a good basketball team. So that end stretch of non-conference, there's going to be some pretty tough games in there. And I know last year we kind of got used to just tuning into a non-conference basketball game for the women and kind of expecting us to just win by 30. And if it was within 20, we were disappointed. So we may have to recalibrate a little bit this year, and maybe understand that things are just not going to be as effortless for this group as they were for last year.
Hey, remember the Duke game? I wish I didn't.
What Duke game? So
exactly. But yeah, we're gearing up. We're almost we're almost at the end of the no sports going on tunnel of June and July. And I don't know what it was about it, but this year it kind of felt faster than in previous years, because I remember previous years just clawing through these months and just trying to do absolutely anything that we could to keep ourselves sane. But I think it's going to be another exciting year for K-State athletics. I mean, spoilers, K-State football is pretty much in Big 12 championship or bust mode. Men's basketball constructed a roster that's top to bottom better than last year's. I don't feel like that's disputable. The women's team will be young but full of stars that you just sort of get to watch mold into household names as time goes on. And baseball is returning some of their big names as well. So, and plus volleyball. I think volleyball, is it volleyball or soccer that's technically the first games that get played?
I think that'll be soccer. They typically start really early because their season always just ends absurdly fast. It's because of how early they start. But their first exhibition is in 2 days from when we're recording. The day this drops, the next day will be the first exhibition game for the soccer team. They're playing against Missouri State August 2nd, in Springfield. And then the first regular season game is August 14th. So
God.
It's right there. That's starting very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And that also, we're in a new era. We're wiping the slate clean with soccer because they've been famously terrible with brief interruptions of near competence that it's truly like having been lost in a cave, where it's or being lost in the desert's a better way to put it, where you just, what is it when you hallucinate in the desert, Ace? Mirage, yes. It's like seeing them do something competent on accident. It was like a mirage. But now we have a new coach. I don't know if they'll be good this year or not. I really don't. But like at the very least, like I'll be like less bothered by it, I guess, because it won't necessarily be the norm. It'll be the beginning of something new. And if they're still bad in a couple of years, then yeah, we can revert back. That old setting will always be there. But
Also, you get Mansfield too. I guess 3.0 season 3.
yeah, this is year 3. They have an exhibition in Norman against Oklahoma August 23rd. And they start August 29th at the K-State Invitational. They get UMBC on a Friday on the 29th, and then on the 31st they get Delaware. And then they get another tournament at home where NC State and Nevada will come visit. That's how it seems like most of a non-conference is going nowadays in volleyball, is tournaments where everybody kind of congregates at one spot. But it's going to be a lot of returners, like returning role players, but Aaliyah Carter's gone, Liz Rogorski is gone, Mackenzie Morris has been gone, Izzy Sholshevsky's gone. So like some of like the big names are gone from last year, but a lot of the role players will be stepping up. I know that there's a pretty big freshman class that I think they're excited about. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but they got like a 5-star commitment for like 2027, like a few weeks ago. So Mansfield crew is recruiting really well, and he's like a good developer of talent. I'm hoping that this like pretty much no transfer thing is like going to work out for him, because K-State has not had a single player leave in the portal in the last 2 years, which is like I can't remember the last time I've said that about a K-State team, like no one leaving in the portal. They didn't even pick up anyone in the portal this year either. Like they are really building from the ground up and taking an old school approach, and I'm very interested to see if it works or not. But I guess we'll see. I'll probably make it to a few games as well, because that's an awesome arena to watch games in as well. It gets really loud and there's a lot of energy. So I'm curious. We don't have as much to say on soccer and volleyball, but like they say, they put everything on ESPN Plus. So listen to the smooth baritones of Brian Smoller and let him lead you through the experience.
I don't think there's a better way to leave off the episode. So thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're aggievillealleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdwards00.
I am at Connor Balsor, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. Link found in our podcast and Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.